Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls of all ages. I'm your host, Grant Magic, dictator of the Republic of New Strathclyde. I still got to get used to that. You just breathed really heavily. That was a piece by Mendham called "You." It was featuring Brenton Matthias, an NCS release you can find in the description below. I'm joined this week by none other than Gabriel Young himself, the president of Ethosia. How are you today?
Well, I'm alive, but I'm doing pretty okay.
It's I gotta say I'm feeling the same, man. I'm alive, but I wish I wasn't at times. Um, Before we get into this week's episode, I just have one thing to say. Um, if you've been following global news, you'll know that there are now more than 100,000 coronavirus cases worldwide. I just want to put out a message to people. Don't don't go into contact with people unless you absolutely have to. Always wash your hands. You know, check the internet for what to do because people aren't sure how this is spreading and how it spreads so fast. So keep yourself safe. Try not to catch coronavirus. Um, yeah. So let's get into the video now. Um, it's been a while since you've been on, Gabe. I'm not
Yeah,
entirely sure when the last time was, but I'm pretty sure at that time you were running the the
I don't believe I
Highlands.
was running any other nation. I was actually a part of the council that was leading the Libertalia, the USSA, etc., etc. You know how it goes.
Um,
That
are
was
you, are you,
around, I
are
believe,
you sure that the
March or February of 2019.
hmm? But has it really been that long since you've been on?
Yeah,
I can't believe that. Are you absolutely positive? I have to double check you, man, because I don't
I'm like
believe you.
90% sure. The last time I was on here was when I was on here with Miller.
Yeah, that would have been with Libertalia then.
Yeah, that would have
Um,
been during February or March.
I'm just gonna check. Uh, Holy crap, this goes back a long time. Um, was Haston? Yeah,
I believe,
it was
yeah, okay. Then yeah.
It was Haston. I was absolutely positive that that didn't seem right. Yeah, so back when you ran Haston 8 months ago, so what? This is March, and that would have been about July, I
Yeah.
think. Um, yeah, it would have been about this time in July that you were on then. Um, so tell me how things have been going since since you were on in Haston. Like, what's been happening?
Well, there was a period of time where I kind of took a break from running my own thing, and I just started taking positions in other micronations because running a micronation is a very difficult job, and whenever you have a populace as isn't exactly as involved or as committed as you are, it can get to be kind of difficult.
Yeah, that's a problem that a
So
lot of leaders find is that they can't get the populace motivated enough to actually participate. That's what I found. It's also a problem that Dan Morris in New Westphalia has quite a lot. Um, I believe it's also a problem that the recent abdicated Caesar of Mesperia has had. Things that he's just doing it himself, and he can't really find anyone to help him out.
right, and I mean one of the bigger issues of it is one of the bigger issues I see with micronations is that they try to start off way too quickly, way too fast. Uh, for a main example, most micronations will try to start off as this. They'll go into it thinking it's more than what they can actually do, because I see a lot of micronations form, and then immediately you're like, okay, well, here's our military branch, here's our government branch, here's this, and that. It took me a month alone to get everything together for the Constitution for Ethosia and everything. It took me about a month or two before I even clicked start again. So really, it's not something you can just hop into Twitter, create an account, and then you're golden from there. It's something that takes a lot of planning and uh, a lot of involvement on your end, and that's one of the main issues that I'm starting to realize now with Ethosia. That's why it's not been doing too much as of late. A, because I'm involved with other politics in another micronation called Caledonia, and B, I forgot one crucial part of the planning step, and that was to make sure that there were going to be people involved that could help me and that I could appoint positions to, as well as citizenry. So,
Fair enough. In regards to this other nation that you're a part of, Caledonia, you called it. What's your
yes.
role? What's your role in this other nation?
Well, prior to this election, I was a legislative member in the parliament under the Caledonian Front, which is led by a Ned Fram. However, I split the party away to begin working on my own policies because I didn't agree with how the party was functioning and the policies they were pursuing. And so I've started to take upon a more political approach into the legislative branches that come with Caledonia, by creating Alternative for Caledonia, which is a party centered around the policies of my own ideological makeup. So it's doing fairly well. The election is actually today. It ends at midnight, and over the public polling, we've been hitting 13 and 14% averages. So it's going pretty well. There's still 50% of the population undecided, so we've still got a chance to come out with a good run.
Fairly, I mean, those are fairly decent odds. Um, in terms of your second point was getting people on board. I like to live by the saying in the community that no ruler rules alone, and that's something that not many people do get. Something I've been called stupid for, but when it comes down to it, people actually say, "Wow, he was right," because it's true. And you can't, if it's just you, then you really don't have anything to rule over.
I mean, yeah, and I mean, you can run a nation by yourself and be a one-person nation, and
Exactly,
that's
I agree
that
with
that
that.
completely fits the narrative and the definitions of what a requirement in the nation is under the UN Charter. However, if you don't have any sort of numbers to verify that, then you're just
You're a one man show.
so without the verification of the numbers of citizens, there is really no sense in running a nation by yourself.
I suppose not, but if there was no sense in it, then I suppose myself and yourself wouldn't be in this position where we are actually running nations by ourselves.
Well, to be fair, we're not passing legislation. We're not stepping up and saying, "Oh, abortion is banned," or
Hmm.
"Oh, I'm gonna start a military." We're not doing things with the verification of others. So we're still in our infancy stages, you and I, and that's all right.
Yeah, it's starting again feels good. I'm gonna take a more calmly approach to the community, um,
Yeah.
because my presence was too great on Twitter during the last few months in 2018, and then again in 2019, and even at the start of this year, it was far too great, and the pressure just hit, and it hit the fan and went everywhere, and that was it.
Right. Yeah, and I mean, when you get submerged in the dramatics of the average age of a micronationalist leader
Mm.
is about 15 to 14, maybe 16.
Yeah,
But when you get delved in and drowned within the dramatics between nations that really hold no effect on the functioning of your own state, that's when you start to go off on the wrong side of the street when it comes to micronational leadership, because there are times when you need to step in and get involved because A, it either conflicts with your interests, or B, it conflicts with the greater good of the entirety of the community. But when you're sitting there and two other nations are going at it and you throw yourself in, you're just committing self-destruction at that point. And that's something I've done. That's something I've done my best to not get involved with this time around, because I'm not making senseless announcements on the main Twitter as well, and I'm just using my own personal account, and I don't really interact too much with other micronations on Twitter unless they directly come to me. So,
Fair enough. Um, are there any things that you're planning within the next month for Ethosia?
well, things are kind of slow right now, what with me getting involved in Caledonia and everything else, but really the only plan is, um, really, we're not going to be planning anything until we get citizenry, so I guess just throwing out citizen application and waiting for people to come join in before we start getting involved in it.
Hmm. Sounds simple. As the simpler something is, the better. You wait for people to come to you. That's all you can do. Advertise, and just do not get involved in the BS, which is something that I have promised myself for New Strathclyde. Is don't get involved in the BS, because the BS sucks, and the BS will tear you them from them. And I have kind of broken that rule since by posting a statement on Mr. Franson last week
Right.
at some point. But to be fair, no one else was directly commented on in that document. It was just him, and I tried to talk to someone else about it, and they just were not fucking interested. I'm like, well, okay, you know, up you then.
All right, and I mean that's just because the whole situation with Franson, for people who don't understand, is the person who's at least suspected we have the most evidence behind, with unconfirmed confession, that he was behind no microbullying and Lilliput and other things. We have evidence to support that it was no micro, but we don't have evidence for Lilliput or the other guys. But it's pretty much assumed at this point. But in reality, he did his damage. He showed the weaknesses within the administrative structure of USOV, and beyond that, showed the weaknesses within individuals in the community. And in reality, there are ages that will come and pass, and about every year there is a shift in micronational power, whether it be diplomacy or respect between individuals. And when that happens, there is a massive amount of chaos when it comes to dramatics, either on Twitter or within Discord servers or within leadership of micronations and other situations such as that. And right now, things are actually the calmest I've ever seen them. It's actually been the most quiet I've ever seen it since, December of the first time I came around, which was in 2018. Um, but the situation with this, he came around, he did his damage, but if there's one thing that it did show, and that one thing that did good come out of it, it riddled out the weaknesses, and it caused people to get stronger and realize that there's more to it than just sitting behind a computer on Discord, on Twitter, typing out a couple forms and calling it legislation. People are getting their shit together now, and they're actually doing stuff with their nations and doing stuff with themselves and making themselves healthier or those around them healthier. So there were a lot of bad things that came out of that situation, but in reality, it did a lot more good than it did bad, at least from my own perspective.
Fair enough. I was not expecting that answer. I don't think anyone else at home was either. Um, quite honest, like I'm still having trouble sleeping, still having trouble eating because of all the stress It's like,
Right. And I mean, I don't want to patronize or antagonize anybody because I know that individuals handle mental stress in different ways. I myself have dealt with a lot of stress from the community in general from when I first came around the middle of the time that I was here, and now everybody just leaves me alone because they know they can't win. But I understand a lot of the stress that was coming around from the allegations of Lilliput and the constant ramming and battering of individuals. But really, in reality, we as individuals just need to sit down and start to learn how to handle ourselves better. We need to start, people who were mainly affected by this situation mentally or physically really need to sit down and start looking into ways how to either verbally or physically express themselves better than what they were previously. You know, it was a 14-year-old boy. A couple things were said on social media. It stressed a lot of people out, but when you sit down and you think about it, really, it was a 14-year-old boy on social media that said a couple things that stressed people out. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't, it was harassment, but it was to a point where it could have just been avoided simply by either blocking or muting people or just completely ignoring it altogether, because people treat it as if it was this big massive thing, but in reality the only people that were giving it credibility were the people that were fighting against it, because there weren't people coming around openly stating, other than himself, that USOF was a terrorist organization or that individuals within it were terrorists. It was just something that was taken out of proportion and made out to be something a lot larger than what it really was, simply because of the stress that surrounded.
okay. So I'm not exactly sure how to respond right now. I just try to
Well, I
I'm
just want to make it clear, I'm not trying to antagonize anybody or put anybody down for it. I
no, no,
understand
no.
completely,
It's fine.
because people have gone after me in the community and everything else. I was on the main receiving end of the whole Owen thing, and then the Nazi comments and all that other stuff. So,
Mm,
I mean, I completely understand it. But for me personally, I sat down and, as I explained earlier, I realized, okay, it's comments on social media and it's not affecting me in real life, you know?
I mean, throwing about the word terrorist isn't really good for anyone's mental health. When people think and hear the word terrorist, they think of someone who is psychotic and will do anything for the belief. Mainly Christian and Islamic terrorists. Islamic
Right.
terrorists, strap bombs
And
to
I mean,
themselves and
throwing around the word
yeah.
Nazi doesn't help either, but
No, but
once again,
like,
it revolves around the same point, that
mhm.
it's just comments on social media and it doesn't really affect you in the long run. Because if you have the facts to back up the fact that they're wrong, then you're completely okay. You've got nothing to worry about.
See, that was the thing we did, but that didn't matter because it continued for so long. I mean, like, it's now into the 7th month this is happening, and
Yeah, but I mean,
like, honest,
stop and think
like,
about it for a
I'm
minute,
gonna be
though.
honest, and I'm gonna say this live on air. 2 weeks ago, like, I honestly felt like just throwing myself off a bridge because all this. I'm like it's just not fucking worth it anymore. Like, again,
Right. I mean, the community has become toxic, but here's the thing. Just like back in 2018 when the USOF was originally founded, we were able to unite the community against one common enemy, and that's what we've done here. And now people seem to be doing a lot better off. People are acting more respecting towards each other. There aren't as many interpersonal rivalries as there used to be.
no,
A
certainly
lot of the
not.
people that used to hate me and despise me for no reason are some of my best friends now. People are starting to realize now that it was just something that got taken and we stressed out too much about it.
Mm. Well, we'll move on from the subject because I feel like if I continue to talk to you about this, you'll keep repeating what you're saying, and I'll just keep repeating what I'm saying. Um,
Circles.
fuck off, Gabe. uh, but yeah, recently within the last month or two, I think it was last month, you founded the the new United Sovereignties. Tell us all about that.
It's well, essentially, um, it's if anybody can really remember what USOF was founded upon in its original foundings in October of 2018, that's essentially what it is now. Except we're not doing the structural thing where people are getting positions of this, and that. Essentially, it's just a organization where people will come together and cooperate. We're not getting involved in the community as people used to. Uh, we're not going out and not starting witch hunts and shit like we used to as well. So,
We had an
um,
entirely valid reason in October of 2018. It was entirely valid.
we had a valid reason, but the thing is that people thought about it and were like, we have a lot of power on our hands. We basically have an army of people that will come in and throw themselves at an individual that we dislike, and that's what was happening. And that was one of the main reasons why I didn't rerun after the 6 month thing, and why Dan Morris took the position, because I figured maybe Morris would be able to stop that, and maybe he'd be able to do something because he had this notion of how to run things, at least from my own perspective. And he did a great job of things for the first while, but then people started becoming demoralized, didn't want to do anything, and it just became a whole mess. And eventually, after I believe it was the first year of USOV going through its administration, Dan had actually either stepped down or was kicked out. I don't remember what happened, but I know that for a while there was a triumvirate, and even
Um,
within that, there was a lot of interpersonal rivalry within the upper chambers of the administration, and that wasn't helping the situation either. But essentially, all that USOV is that we're the new USOV is really the old USOV. If anybody can understand that, because we're not following down the same path of what happened after I stepped down. We're going down the vision that I had originally set out for it, and the vision that I originally paced out for it, of just nations cooperating with one another. Nobody's above anybody else in power. It's just simple cooperation and cohesion between nations working together to further themselves and the outsiders that voluntarily ask for it.
yeah. If I can get back to what you were saying a little bit earlier, do you think that uh, Dan uh, Dan was a good leader? Did he take the use of as far as you wanted it to go, or do you think that he could have done a better job?
Dan did a fine job in the first round of elections. In his first 6 months, he did a fine job, and I had a lot of hope for the thing, or for the organization at that point. The only issue with it is like I stated earlier, there was a lot of interpersonal rivalry. People would things that people were fighting with him, and he was fighting with other people because either he would say something and mean it as this, and people would misinterpret it or interpret it as something else, or vice versa. So it was just a constant bickering fest in there. But overall, he had good ideas and he wanted to do good by the organization. The only issue was that individuals, as well as himself, couldn't allow that to happen because they couldn't set aside simplistic dramatics.
I agree with that. um, there was quite a lot of bickering going on between mainly when Dan was elected in January. And all that bickering was going on between me and him, and because I was quite, new to this and how to conduct myself, and I was just like, just not taking the BS. And then, like, you said earlier that you didn't know if Dan was removed from the use of, or he stepped down. The answer to that is he stepped down. And uh, do you think that there was more that could have been done to save the use of back in last month? Do you think there's more that
And you cut out. I'm sorry.
did I get cut off? What's going on?
You cut out in the middle of your
Oh,
statement. Could you ask the question again?
okay. Do you think that Dan could have done more with Yusov?
I mean, everybody could have done more with Yusuf, but really the situation behind it is that nobody wanted to and nobody did. I mean, people wanted to, but they wouldn't allow themselves to, simplistically for the fact that either their own they wanted their own thing to go their own way, or they didn't want to give the credit off to somebody that they disliked.
Mm-hmm. Now, obviously, some people watching this might not know that the United Sovereignties was your idea. Um, how did you feel in February when you read the announcement that the USOV was being dissolved or disbanded?
I can give you firsthand experience of what happened within the internal discussion of the whole situation. I argued with a lot of individuals and argued that if they weren't going to do the job, then to hand off the administration to me. That did not make a lot of people happy. Beyond that, it did make myself happy. So I took the opportunity to retake the reins of the whole thing and retake control of everything else and take my brainchild down the route that I had originally had planned for it. So it was a bit of mixed feelings. I was happy because I was able to take the opportunity to take back power and put it back on the path that I had originally wanted it to, but I was angry as well because individuals had lost so much hope in it simplistically because of their own uh, how do I put this without being misinterpreted? I was angry because the organization shut down because people had decided to give up because everybody just decided to run out of answers and they couldn't compromise with each other. And I wanna make it clear that I don't want anybody to take this as official or anything like this. This is just from my own personal perspective and the perspective that I got from individuals who were inside during the times that I was not part of the organization. Because during the time that I had dropped out, uh, I had joined in 2 or 3 times in between that and then left every time because the organization was going down the path that I did not like and I didn't want to be a part of. But I still held sympathies with the organization in general during those times.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I had a lot of faith in Archie, and Archie did a good job. But the issue is, once again, is that there was too many interpersonal dramatics and too many individual problems for anybody to handle it all at once anymore, and that's really the only reason that I can understand truly that it collapsed because nobody wanted to do it anymore.
It's fair enough. Um, but you did you did recreate the use of a few days later. Um, so tell me how Well, I'm in the use of the new use of. I would know. But for those at home who are watching who don't know, how is the new use of going?
I think it's going fairly well. Members are voting on the new charter that was written up by both yourself and the Vassal of Lophocrithia, which is from Nova Byzantium.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and so far it's going pretty well. We've got a lot of future plans set out. There's a lot of activity within it. We're not focusing too much on the individuals outside the organization anymore. And overall, people seem to be a lot happier nowadays. So,
Happiness does come when there's a little stress in people's lives. But like you're talking about this charter. What's like in this charter?
say again?
What's in this charter?
Well, it essentially lays out the requirements of what can be considered a micronation and what can be done within your the organization and what's required of members and what's looked for in individuals. So it's essentially just a rule book, but it's the defining, it's the definition of individuals within the organization.
Mhm. Um, how many members does the use of have? Because I lost I lost track. So I'm very
I
in and out.
believe we have, yeah, we have 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Is that 8? 9, 6, 7, 8, 9. We have about 9 members.
9 members, and it's been up for a month. I mean that's pretty good. Sorry, I'm just typing something out. 9 members isn't so bad for like the first few weeks of operation, but you got like members that I've never seen in the old use of such as the Sonland and who's a great guy, the Anatolian Empire, which I'd never previously heard of up until they joined the new use of. Things like that. I think it's good that new members are coming. Though they got new ideas, things like that. Are you posting all these comments and just like messing with me or something?
No, I'm going through a whole bunch of other things right now. Because you brought up membership, and now I'm going through the responses to the use of applications and stuff at the moment. I'm not doing anything to do with comments.
Mhm. Are you absolutely sure? Because I'm getting a lot of weird questions right now.
I am absolutely sure.
Right. Okay. I believe you. Yeah. People are really eager to ask you questions. So like we'll read them out in like 10 minutes or something. And don't worry,
All right.
guys. The questions will be asked. You'll have your answers. But in the meantime, people at home, just stay patient. I forgot I lost my train of thought. So when it comes to the new use of, what are your plans for it?
Essentially, what I originally had planned, and something I explained earlier in the stream: simplistic, cohesive cooperation between nations, where nobody's above or below another one.
Sounds decent. Sounds like a good idea. So there's a lot of problems with that in the old use of that. One person's idea would always outweigh another's, which is never good because then people aren't listened to and people are not treated right.
There's a social hierarchy, is what you're trying to say.
Yeah, exactly. Social hierarchies are. I find
People's were other individuals. Certain individuals were taken more into consideration than others.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is a problem. I found that problem at school as well. Like found it quite difficult to talk to people at school because you had all these different groups and a few people who were at the very top of the food chain, and I was down at the bottom of the food chain, and I was picked on quite a lot. So I don't really like social hierarchies very much because of school, and when you get into creating an organisation such as the United Sovereignties, it's important because every nation's opinion matters. Every nation is equal. No one's opinion should stand and tower over another's just because of who they are, or how many citizens they have, or how long they've been around. It's got to be teamwork on all sides. And that was a big problem in the old use of. So your future plans are just to keep it simplistic and things like that.
Yep, essentially.
Excellent. Are there any like upcoming things for the new use of? Is there something that you're planning that I don't know about?
Well, there's a lot of talks between individuals, or at least one individual, of a chess tournament.
The chess tournament.
Oh, hold on, I'll be right.
Gabe will be back very shortly. I just want to talk about New Strathclyde right now. So for a lot of people who don't know, I recently dissolved the Virgan Republic and brought in New Strathclyde, and taking a very stand backish position from the community, especially on Twitter, because as has been discussed, it's quite dire. Things like that. Things can be difficult, especially in the community, because there is like a lot of backstabbing going on, and I feel like some people don't take it seriously enough that that there's people running about just doing whatever they want, saying whatever they want. It's got to stop. That's one of the reasons that I changed in the Virgan Republic, is because I was like that, and I needed a change of approach to the community in general. There's things that need to change in the community, especially the dynamic of it. How
Apologies for that.
That's alright.
I am going to have to leave soon, so if we could move on to questions.
Yeah, I can move on to questions right now. So I've been getting comments from I don't know if I can read this out with a straight face. A guy, where does Gabe stand on his faith?
I am a Lutheran.
I'm sorry, what?
I am a Lutheran.
A Lutheran?
It is a denomination of Christianity.
A denomination of Christianity?
Mm-hmm.
What does that mean?
It's a branch of Christianity.
Okay. Is this branch just called a Lutheran?
Lutheranism.
Lutheranism. I have never heard of that, and I will need to Google that later. Well, that. He's not saying it, so how the hell am I meant to know? We got another the second question for tonight comes from Mini Micro. What actions are you both putting in place for your citizens during the coronavirus outbreak?
I see multiple questions from him, and I don't feel like that was the question you were about to ask, but honestly, nothing. It's up to our exclave, the United States, to handle it, because we don't have the proper capabilities to do anything about it.
Same here for me. I'm kind of the only citizen in New Strathclyde, so it's pretty much just looking after myself right now.
Yep.
It's up to the UK government to stop the spread, and if they're not doing the job right, then That's it. The next question again comes from Mini Micro. Would you both consider banning religion in your nations? If so, why? And of not why?
No, because I don't really see putting an individual ban on somebody's faith is really necessary.
While running the Virgan Republic, I did put a ban on trying to lecture others about your religion, but only if you practiced Christianity, Islam, or Judaism, and that's because at that time I felt like those three religions were big contenders for a lot of BS in the world. You got all the holy walls from hundreds, thousands of years ago. It just was not a good time. We got another question. Oh my god.
I am not doing anything because it is outside of my power. That's all I'm gonna say because I know what the question is.
I'll read it out anyway. What actions are you both putting in place to make sure the blacks don't breed our women?
Oh fuck! I don't know. Slap on the wrist. No, I don't know. I don't really care. It's up to the individual to choose what they do.
Yeah. Love is love. Don't be so intolerant, you cock. Actually, a decent question from him this time. Where did you get the name from?
Well, ethos is Greek, and it has to do with culture and the characteristics of such. So when trying to find a name for the nation, I've always been focused on deeply involved culture and values and stuff like that. So the official definition of ethos is actually the characteristic spirit of a culture, era, or community as manifested in its beliefs and aspirations. So that word is really where the name comes from.
If the question was for both of us, then I would like to answer. For people who know me personally, will know that I come from Scotland, and in particular, just outside the city called Glasgow. Long time ago, before the Kingdom of Scotland was formed, there was three kingdoms. You had the Kingdom of Alba and the Highlands in the north. You had the Kingdom of Strathclyde over in Glasgow in the west, and you had the Kingdom of Lothian over in Edinburgh in the east. And the King of Alba went to the kings of Strathclyde and Lothian, and they all signed a treaty which made Strathclyde and Lothian vassal states under Alba, and soon after that they integrated into Alba. Also, for those of you who don't know, Alba is the Scots Gaelic word for Scotland. What are you going to do with the AFC?
Alternative for Caledonia is essentially just a political party with the message to Caledonians that there is an alternative outside of the usual party that has ran a majority since the conception of the nation. It's essentially a political party centered around social economics and right-wing cultural values.
Okay, I hope that answers your question, guy. These are just getting ridiculous now. Yeah, but I'm gonna have to end this off here. Sorry we didn't answer all your questions. Unfortunately, Gabe has to leave. Join us next week where we'll be having another conspiracy theory. I'm not quite sure what Mao has decided on yet, but hopefully he'll get back to me on that. And the week after that we're having John Gordon on. Forgot what nation he runs, but we'll be on. So next week, Conspiracy Theory. Week after that, John Gordon. Tune in later. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.